Welcome to another episode of Professor Jock, giving you lessons on awakening your consciousness. So today, I have provided some material to kind of connect the dots for everybody who is unaware of the debilitated state of society in the United States. So, let's begin. The cult of self-dominance in our culture is quite provocative. This culture shares within it the classic traits of a psychopath class: superficial charm, grandiosity, self-importance, and a need for constant stimulation, a penchant for lying and manipulation, and the incapacity or for remorse or guilt. This is what social media has allowed us to explore, and we can now see that we are clearly past the age of character and well into the age of personality. And this being that previously generations were in one place and everybody knew who they were surrounded with, and perceptions were based off of the idea of character, having good character, being a solid citizen to society. But now we're in the age of personality where everything is quick moving, we're seeking attention in order to fulfill the desire to be known and liked, and the personalities that people create oftentimes don't depict the heart of their character. So, it is the misguided belief that wealth, fame, personal style, and personal advancement, which is mistaken for individualism, is the same as democratic equality. The only culture of help comes around the Christmas season, but this is only portrayed in movies and not necessarily carried out in real life, thus giving you the strong disillusion, as there are no reports on celebrated the progress of charitable organizations in our media. So nobody is reporting on how poverty has decreased and how they have helped a homeless person a day or their neighbor in general. We don't have this in our culture. We rather focus on the ratchet, focus on the deplorable, focus on violence, murder, things like that. We have, in a sense, become different from how we used to be in our natural state. So, it is this celebration of image over substance that creates fame and wealth having their own justification and their own morality, and how one gets there becomes irrelevant. And as we seek and sink into a political morass and we barrel towards a crisis that will create more misery than the Great Deception, we can realize that we actually have the power to turn the tides by giving our attention to the correct things and providing momentum to the correct things through our attention. And so we are controlled and manipulated and distracted by a society awash in electronic hallucinations and social media, and what we can now deem the Great Deception. The consumer culture and the cult of self are not simply designed to entertain, they are designed to drain us emotionally, confuse us about our identity, and make us blame ourselves for our predicament. This condition allows us to continue to choose the illusion of unachievable happiness and keep us from fighting back. When people look into Facebook, they do so with strong ego. They feel a sense of proving their identity by updating people on what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, not what their long-term goals are or what other people can do to improve themselves. They rather focus on their achievements, their individualism, and the deception of rights for all people, when, as we know, the only people that didn't have rights were black people. Hence the struggle for civil rights. And so this is really about, in totality, the culture of death. And so this cult of death begins with idol worship, or the consumption and or sacrifice of others. And so we're always talking about how celebrities are sacrificing themselves and how they have such strenuous schedules and how they can't really relate to normal people anymore. And this kind of recognition programs the public or the masses to think in a similar way. So now we can see in this climate that everyone is fighting for attention. And those who get the biggest attention actually make a sacrifice for their wish, which is not something that children are told can come true, but something that they're told they have to work towards. And so so this kind of sacrifice always ends with our own sacrifice on the altar of idols. And this is the danger of idolatry. A culture that kneels before these idols slays itself. In fact, I saw an article on Diego Maradona and how he's literally worshipped in society. And we can see other many celebrities that are worshipped, such as Beyonce, who now has a church in her name, and Pope Francis, who is, you know, a Catholic figurehead, and how he is also the actor Jonathan Pryce. But so what does this idol worship look like? It can be anything from attending concerts, admiring others. Complimenting can then become dangerous, especially if the person isn't present. So this isn't considered a prayer at all, but praise toward the illusion of the material. Seeing as consciousness is the only real thing that exists in this world and the dream world, we must respect only the devotion to the self, noticing this self. We have many energy bodies that inhabit and animate this physical form that we are provided. The miracle of all being different, yet all being 99% the same. Your energy must cultivate a state of devastation due to idol worship. Nature is a reflection of what's inside, and the planet is in a current state of devastation due to idol worship. Brands and companies like Walmart and Monsanto and Kibo and Google, these are brands and companies that are worshipped at the direct expense of our energy, our attention, and money, and oftentimes provide a service with deception. So, when we realize that attention and money are the true currency, then we can see that the attention is profiting those who are the giant companies such as Google and Facebook, who generate 90% of their revenue from advertisements. So, one way to think about this idol worship with respect to money is very prevalent in people's minds. But when we also consider the image of that, then we can plug in the currency of youth, beauty, sexuality, and fame, and how society is addicted to all these unattainable things and being attached to the idols that create this collective misery. So then, the fusion of identity in the corporocratic branding of slaves has caused everyone to give power unto the image of the beast. And Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla, says that AI would be invoking the beast. So what does this mean? Because companies would pay billions of dollars to create a slave and become a god group in mastering all the answers that they have for their customers, to what end do these answers perceive an actual problem? When, as we know, that the artificial human or the corporation is actually a profit-seeking corporation and not a societal benefiting corporation. And so Verily so, the many-headed beast system stems from the Middle East, the oil companies, Europe and its early colonization, America and its recent colonization of using democracy, Russia and its many instigating histories of creating wars and inciting terror and making world moves, and of course China and its overpopulated culture that has, in a sense, assumed the manufacturing industry of the world. So all of these bestial corporations focus on profits and short-term projects rather than focusing on sustainable human practices. For example, the automotive and energy industries are investing their operations in fossil fuels and fueling the deception of global warming when there is an immense amount of evidence to suggest or to provide that meat eaters are the actual cause of the devastation due to the planet because of cutting down forests to facilitate agricultural grazing of cattle. And so this type of global warming actually is causing the most devastation, especially in Brazil, where the overproduction of cows has created an overproduction of methane, which, as we know, is 10 times more noxious or toxic to ozone than actual respiration from humans or cars. And so, verily so, there is deception after deception. And you can see that infusing your identity into the corporocratic system of eating a European vampiric diet by attending Burger King, McDonald's,